There's been so much talk about Kyrie's place on this team. What do you make of that fourth quarter? They come back with him on the bench, but then he's the one who seals the deal.
Well, I think, you mentioned it. They played through Tatum early in the fourth quarter with Kyrie on the bench, and Rozier was the point guard and the leader out on the floor at that point in time, facilitating the offense. I think the big thing for me is to see this team start to trust, A, in its depth, but B, even more importantly, the idea of Kyrie Irving moving off the ball a little bit into a more scoring role with Rozier out on the floor with him. And I think what that did, it freed him up to be the closer that Jalen, you were talking about him being. Because in these big moments in the playoffs, especially for this team, who do you trust more to make a big shot than Kyrie Irving? And this goes back to what we've been saying for the last 2 months, right? To win a championship, Kyrie has to be out on the floor.
You're a smart basketball mind, sir. Most people look at the stat sheet and say Rozier only had 4 points. But in the 20 minutes he was out there, they were plus 19. And I hate that stat, plus minus. But they were more efficient, they were more effective. And the other thing they did was establish a pecking order. When you have so many young lottery picks and so many people that have accomplished so much in the league, and a Celtic team that made it to the conference finals last year, you now got to say, okay, who's going to be our second best player? That is Jason Tatum. We hoped that he would take an all-star leap this year, which did not happen, but he's playing as such in this early series.
It was interesting because they closed things out with Kyrie, obviously, Brown, Tatum, Hayward, and Horford. That was the lineup that initially everybody thought is going to be so good for the Celtics. Do you think, Jalen, that this is just a favorable matchup for them, or they have finally righted the ship? Maybe we'll finally see even that lineup I just mentioned live up to expectations.
Ding, 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 both. I've been saying it the entire year. As the playoffs started to form, when Kyrie talked about he was going to miss a few games, in my head, the Boston Celtics were looking to play against the Indiana Pacers because they were without their best player. Yeah. If Victor Oladipo was on the court yesterday, he would have been the second best player, not Jason Tatum. That would have changed the dynamics of what we're seeing from a tough Pacer team who fought the entire game.
Well, and if Oladipo's out on the floor, they score more than 12 points in the final quarter of this game. I mean, there was a stretch where you just saw them searching to try to find a way to score a basket. Some of it was the Celtics defense. I'm not discrediting what Boston did the defensive end of the floor, but a lot of it was offensively, how out of rhythm and stagnant the Pacers became without Victor Oladipo. And this is where it shows up. Adjustments in the postseason. We talk about how teams are defended differently. So their success in the regular season doesn't necessarily translate over into a 7-game series where teams are going to make adjustments to what you do and take away options when you don't have your best player.
But we'll see. They wind up on Milwaukee's side of the bracket by doing what you're talking about. You want to avoid, I get it, you want Indiana in the first round, but what you do is you wind up on Milwaukee's side of the bracket, so that's who they would get in the second round of these playoffs as opposed to playing Orlando or Brooklyn. I can't imagine Boston's afraid of either. My point is, if you're as good a team as they're supposed to be, I can't imagine it should matter that much who you're playing.
I agree with you, but the Celtics played Milwaukee in the playoffs last year.
Right.
And they beat them without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. So they're confident that they have what it takes to advance past the Bucks.